Welcome to Ask Rabbit Malicious Compliance, where a man gets hired and fired all in the same day because of malicious compliance. I have 3 awesome stories for you today, so let's jump into it. This first post is titled, "The Day I Was Hired and Fired by a Law Firm." So this was about 5 years ago. I worked as a chef at a bakery. It was my job to make everything but the baked goods. Every morning, the baker and I would walk in about 4 a.m. and knock out all of the food needed for the day. This would leave me ready to go home around 10 a.m. or so. This put us at the perfect time to deliver online orders. It was common for companies or other entities to place large catering orders with us. The baker and I would split them down the middle and deliver them on our way home. The delivery in question was for Bob, Dick, and Harry, attorneys at law. I have never delivered to BD&H before, but they were a regular of sorts. Every financial quarter, they would hold a huge meeting. This meeting would require roughly $700 worth of bagels and bagel accessories. This spread included 8 dozen bagels, all 10 of our flavors of cream cheese, pastries, brownies, and enough coffee to power college dorm through finals week. My passenger seat, entire back seat, and entire trunk are filled with food. Now, BD&H is located on the 9th floor of a commercial skyscraper deep in an industrial complex downtown. Parking was non-existent. There were many meters outside the building, but I knew I would need close to 10 trips to deliver all this food and didn't have a lot of change on me. Company policy was to just pay whatever fines I needed to park and then turn in my receipts. The money would end up on my next paycheck. So the building has its own parking garage, so I pull in. The security guard, let's call him Sam, stops me and says that the parking garage is for employees only. I happily show him my delivery invoice and offer him a bribery bagel. Never leave the store without at least 2. Sam refuses the bagel and says I can park in one of the guest spots on the bottom floor. The fee is $5 for every 30 minutes, minimum of $10. I thank him and head to the bottom floor of the garage. So there are a total of 6 guest parking spots. Just 6. All of them are taken. I head back up to talk to Sam when I see an open parking spot reserved for Bob, Dick, and Harry, attorneys at law. There are cars in every spot, with many spots being reserved for employees by name. The last spot is empty and is reserved for guest of BD&H. Perfect. I pull on in. I grab the most important part of the delivery, the coffee, and head to the stairwell. I get into the elevator and hit the button for floor 9. The elevator asks for my employee ID card. Well, crud. So I try the lobby. That works. From there, it's 9 flights of stairs until I'm outside the law firm of Bob, Dick, and Harry. After introducing myself, I am shown to the room where the meeting will take place. A table is set aside for me. I set down the coffee and head for trip number 2. That is when I see Sam talking to the receptionist. He runs over and starts shouting at me. "I am putting a boot on your freaking car. I told you to park and guest on the bottom floor." I didn't get a word in before he launches into a speech about security and how I could be hurting his building or people. That is when a very well-dressed man walks over. It so happens to be Bob, the Bob of Bob, Dick, and Harry's. Bob asks what is the problem, and soon the two are arguing. OP is delivering food for my meeting. He is allowed to use my parking spots. Those parking spots belong to the building. You are leasing them like you lease this floor. I am the one who says who can park there. He isn't an employee, so he isn't parking. Then I am making him an employee. You can't do that. You know what? You are right. Harry, get over here. Harry walks over with an amused look on his face. Harry here is the head of our HR department. Harry, hire this boy. Harry pulls out a piece of paper and scribbles, OP is now a member of Bob, Dick, and Harry's, and signs it and then asks me to sign it as well. I do so. Bob reaches over to the receptionist who is already grabbing some things. Here is your employee badge, your parking permit, and your elevator key card. Now please, do the job I have hired you to do and deliver my bagels. Sam looks on in utter fury as I ride the elevator down to my car. 7 sweet elevator rides later, all the food is delivered. Bob and Harry meet me at the table. OP, you've made great strides in this company, and I am proud of your work, but I feel it is time for us to part ways. Here's your final check. Bob then hands me a crisp $50 bill. And your severance package. Now please be sure to return your badge and card on the way out. Harry hands me a $20 bill and sends me on my way. The receptionist is sure to validate my parking ticket that Sam gave me, and I head on out. On the way out, Sam grins at me and asks for my ticket. I place it in the machine in his station. It sees the validation I got and lets me out for free. Sam glares at me as I drive off into the late morning sun. That just shows you probably shouldn't try to outwit a group of lawyers. Alright, this next post is titled, "You want me to go work on that other project immediately?" Sure thing, boss. So I'm a software developer at a large 1,500-ish employees company. My official position is a software developer, but since I've got quite a bit of experience and a somewhat non-standard skill set for this position, I've worked as a Linux admin and a DevOps engineer for around 2 years. I often get asked to do other things than just write code. I absolutely don't have a problem with that and even quite enjoy doing other things from time to time to break the monotony. Or rather, I did until one of the high-up managers noticed my particular skill set and started asking me to help out on other projects that were short on people. At first, I didn't really mind, but eventually it evolved into a situation where I would be reassigned to a different project every single week. A project change for me would mean downloading all their code, setting up the whole build and development environment, getting familiar with said project, and then finally being able to do some work. This would usually take at least a day. I've tried talking to many different managers to try to do something about this because it was starting to affect my performance reviews to no avail. Some of them would tell me they will look into it, others wouldn't even bother to reply to my emails. And that's where I got really fed up. Now, our project teams usually sit together. We have multiple large open space offices and a few smaller ones with just a few people. I'm one of the lucky ones who gets to sit in one of the small ones, and I usually wouldn't physically move for these team changes because then I would be moving every single week. On a Monday morning, as usual, I got an email basically saying this: "You're needed on project XYZ immediately. Go over there and help as soon as you can." The immediately and go over there parts are where they made the fatal mistake. I've always been one to not take crap from anyone, and malicious compliance is my default, so I immediately took the hint and did exactly what I've been asked to do. I stopped working on my current project immediately. This will be relevant later, and even though I usually wouldn't have done this, I've decided to physically move to the team I've been reassigned to. So for the rest of the day, I made the big spectacle of trying to move my entire workspace closer to the new project team, making sure to only carry one thing at a time as to not injure myself, to an office on a different floor and the other side of the building. The next morning, I just started working on the new project like nothing happened. Well, fast forward 3 weeks. The project I've been taken off has had huge delays and missed multiple client deadlines because of that thing I haven't been allowed to finish. In this industry, missing a client deadline means huge fines from both the client and sometimes also relevant government regulators. Managers started to reply to my emails and try to be much more careful with how they word their requests. I haven't been asked to switch projects for 3 weeks now. Alright, I hope you all enjoyed those first 2 stories. Before we get into the next story, if you guys could please do me a huge favor and smash that like button down below and make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss any future content. Alright, this next post is titled, "Give Me More Ganache." I work at a bakery. While we bake cakes, cookies, brownies, and bread, among other things, our main focus is cupcakes. A customer can walk in and choose from an array of cupcakes at any given time of our store hours. Some of our cupcakes are dipped in ganache as part of their decoration. However, if you try to dip a cupcake upside down into chocolate, the frosting is just going to slide off. So we freeze the cupcakes. We have power freezers, so it's usually only about 30 minutes before the frosting is hard enough to dip. We have this one customer who we all call Ganache Lady. She comes in and chooses a cupcake at random, then asks us to put ganache on top. We've told her time and time again to call 30 to 45 minutes ahead of time so we can freeze the cupcake, which makes our lives easier, and she would get the perfect amount of ganache. Nope, she refuses to do it. The most recent time she was in, she wanted ganache on a raspberry cupcake. And of course, I was the one to serve her. I had dealt with her before, and the previous time I had her, she sent me back 3 times to put more ganache on her cupcake. This time, I think she recognized me and made sure to say, "Put a lot of ganache, like a lot," and didn't even say please. Now, our typical ganache bottles that we typically use for filling cupcakes with chocolate are roughly the shape of a stereotypical cookout condiment bottle, only curvier. The top screws off. So I go to the back, microwave the bottle so the ganache flows easier, and put the cupcake in one of our serving bowls. I unscrew the top and turn the bottle completely upside down and just let it run. When the cupcake is completely covered on top and the ganache is dripping down the sides, I take it back to Ganache Lady. I would have poured the whole bottle on the cupcake if I could have gotten even half the reaction that she gave me. She stared at it for a solid 20 seconds in complete silence before glaring at me. I didn't mean that much. I'm sorry, you said a lot. It's fine, I didn't mean that much, but it's fine. You could call ahead so we can freeze the cupcake, then it would be the perfect amount. She glares at me more and proceeds to lick some chocolate off her fingers and puts her chocolatey spit-covered fingers on my pen to sign the receipt. I threw the pen out, but since then, she's been much less picky. Alright, that's going to wrap up today's malicious compliance video. I hope you enjoyed those 3 stories. If you could, please go ahead and smash that like button down below and make sure to leave a comment letting me know what you thought of those 3 stories today. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss any future content. Before you leave, definitely go ahead and check out other pro-revenge, malicious compliance, and entitled parent stories on this channel. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.